This is really the crux of decentralization. Instead of one particular node or one authority being in charge and saying what the truth is, every single node is saying, that makes sense, that makes sense.
Hello, welcome to White Mirror. I'm sure you all know the process here at the moment. We're trying to bring decentralization to the masses, or at least the understanding of decentralization. It's easy for me to say, decentralization to the masses, which is where it belongs, right, Si?
Absolutely, Dave. Yeah. Cool. And I had an idea for this one that we might talk a little technical, but not. Don't worry. I know what you're thinking, but it's going to be a very, very easy to understand, easy to digest. What is the blockchain?
Okay, cool. That sounds absolutely perfect for episode 3, because we had cryptos in the last episode. Now, honestly, mate, it opened up all sorts for me. That did last episode. Fantastic. So I'm looking forward to this one with your expert knowledge, Simon.
Because, like you said in the last one, it confuses so many people, and what's actually going on behind the scenes. If that's a little bit unclear in people's minds, they kind of steer clear. So, as well as the one that we talked about regarding media bias and why that sets an image in people's minds about crypto, this one is a little bit more of the technical side, so that people can understand what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, there's another point to that, what you're saying as well, Si, which is there's a lot of stuff out there about decentralization. There's a lot of stuff out there about the blockchain, but it's technically exclusive. Very, very hard to understand. It almost seems to, I don't know what you think, but it almost seems to me like people who are into this are kind of keeping it to themselves a little bit.
Right. Well, it's all there. It's just that we need to kind of get rid of a few myths and simplify it for layman speak, so to say. But yeah, it's all right. We'll be gentle, I promise. Right, Dave. So I'm going to share a few images and stuff so it makes it clear and people can see what's going on. So what is the blockchain? We're going to start by talking about Bob. And Bob wants to send some Bitcoin to his friend Jill. Okay, Bob's got 1 Bitcoin. Again, I'm going to use relatively easy numbers here, but obviously 1 Bitcoin is actually quite a lot of money these days. Maybe this example might have been good 5-10 years ago, but they're quite large sums that we're talking about now. But for simplicity,
Bob's loaded. Bob is absolutely loaded. Jill is about to be.
Well, let's see. So he's got 1 Bitcoin, Jill's got none. And Bob's thinking of sending 0.1 Bitcoin to Jill. Okay. So Bob's wallet software, he logs in on his computer or his phone, and he's got his wallet software. And what he's going to do is very easy on the actual phone to do it. You'll be saying, I want to send, click, and then you put in the wallet address and you'll send it off. But what's happening behind the scenes is transactions. Bob's wallet software is going to create a transaction to send 0.1 Bitcoin. Now, actually, behind the scenes, the transaction includes information saying, okay, deduct 0.1 Bitcoin from Bob and credit 0.1 Bitcoin to Jill. That's really what the message is saying. But for simplicity, we'll just say Bob's going to send 0.1 Bitcoin. So Bob's wallet software signs the transaction. What that means is using his key, his private information, his private key, it will go and sign that transaction, say this is a valid transaction. And that all happens on his phone or his computer, and only his phone, his authorized software has the secret information to be able to sign that transaction. Now, all of this is happening on your device at the moment. Now, in the blockchain, anybody else can validate and say, yes, Bob signed that transaction. Nobody else can do it. All right. So the next thing that happens is that Bob's wallet software broadcasts that transaction up to the Bitcoin network. It's called a peer-to-peer network, P2P. Nobody's in charge. There's lots of nodes, and they're all the same. There's no leader, no central authority. That's the main thing about Bitcoin, as we've discussed before, or indeed any crypto, any blockchain. They're all just peer-to-peer. And when Bob's wallet software is sending, it could really send to any number of nodes on the network. Doesn't really matter. But that transaction is sent over to one of the nodes, and that node receives it. And the purpose, one of the things that the nodes do is they store a little list of all the transactions that they've received. And the one that Bob sent to has just received Bob's transaction, and it will add it to its own list. And you can see it's red there at the bottom. It's added it to the bottom of its list. A big list of transactions from lots of different people sending lots of crypto transactions around. The next thing that happens is that node is able to share that transaction with all the other nodes, or just one or two of them, through this kind of gossip that's going on between nodes. So it shares its transaction, and another node, the second node, will receive that transaction. It can add it to its list, and it can carry on gossiping with other nodes. So it will share it off to a third one, and that third one will receive it, and that third one will add it to its own list, until through all of this gossiping, all of the nodes in the network are receiving all of the transactions. Okay? So it's important to say that they're all keeping their own list of transactions. Now, What is the actual blockchain, though? The blockchain is a series of blocks, each containing a set of transactions. Every single node in the peer-to-peer Bitcoin network keeps a complete copy of the blockchain. This is what decentralization is. Because there's no central authority and because no one's in charge, every node is keeping the entire blockchain. Can you imagine that?
Okay, I'm trying to.
It sounds like it's a lot of information, but realistically, the whole blockchain and every single transaction that's happened can indeed fit on large storage devices, large hard disks. I mean, admittedly, it has to be quite heavy-duty hardware, but there are thousands and thousands of these nodes, full nodes, or even Bitcoin miners that maintain complete copies of the blockchain. Any of those nodes can then go and propose a new block. And this one down here on the left, bottom left, that node there is going to propose a new block, and it's going to add some transactions into it. Let's hope that Bob's transaction, which is in its little list, is going to make its way into this new block. So it's an important distinction there. The list is called the mempool, and it's kind of like the transactions that it's keeping back, ready to put. These are all the new ones, and it's ready to put those into a brand new block. Okay? Only when those transactions reach a block, that's when they're in the blockchain. They're just sort of in the ether until they reach that point. So this node has added some transactions into the new block that it's proposing. That node will then prepare to send that new block to all the other nodes and let them have a copy of that new block as well. So it broadcasts that new block. And then when the other ones receive that new block, they can, each one of them, check the validity of that new block. And this is an important stage because every single node can check that the transactions that are included make sense. For example, it doesn't make sense for Bob, who only has 1 Bitcoin, to try to send 2 Bitcoin. It also doesn't make sense if he tries to double spend many times. They have to be sequential. They can't happen, one of the nodes is letting him spend his money over here and another node is letting it spend it over there. It's all sequential, one by one. So that's why each block is sequential, right? So
Okay.
it avoids what's called the double spend problem. So when the other nodes have received this new potential block, they each go and check that they're valid. All the transactions are valid. And once they've done that, once all of the nodes have all agreed that all of the transactions in this new block make sense, that's when consensus is reached, what we call consensus. That's when the majority of nodes all agree that these transactions make sense. This is really the crux of decentralization. Instead of one particular node or one authority being in charge and saying what the truth is, every single node is saying that makes sense, that makes sense. And only when they agree through consensus, the blockchain moves forwards.
Aha. So what you're saying is there's no manager. There's no
Right.
manager going, yeah, that looks all right. Send it off.
They all have the same power. It's like having many managers, but obviously the strength is in the numbers. We can trust them because there's so many people saying the same thing. That's it.
Okay. Can I jump in with a couple of questions, or
Push can, mate.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, my thoughts are on this is perhaps what other people might be thinking. This looks like quite a long process, or is this just instantaneous?
It's all happening very fast. I talked about the gossip that's going on between, well, different blockchains at different speeds. Actually, Bitcoin is one of the slowest, and it can take several hours to come to what we call finality. So let me describe that in a short while. But to answer your question, it's happening relatively fast. In some blockchains, it's happening in microseconds. Solana, as we talked about in the last one, is a really, really fast, lightning fast blockchain, and all the blocks are kind of being created one by one very quickly. But in Bitcoin, because it's such an older network, it takes quite a long time for each block to be formed. It can be hours. But generally speaking, because it's so decentralized and because there are so many nodes, the information is being relayed between them in this kind of gossip fashion. That takes a little bit of time. And then the coming to consensus that those transactions are all valid in the next block, that also takes a bit of time as well.
Okay.
So let's move a little bit on, because it might answer a few more of your questions, Dave.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So once that next block has all been agreed, we reach finality, as I just said, and the blockchain progresses forwards one block. And that keeps happening. It keeps repeating block by block. Okay, so each block gets created, each new set of transactions, and what we have is a story that's unfolding, a story of money moving from A to B to C, and every single transaction is there, going all the way back to the beginning of the blockchain. So where the money first started, and in fact, how it was mined, Bitcoin miners. And I think we're probably going to do an episode just on how the whole mining process works, because that's
that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's a slightly different side of things.
Okay.
Now, Bob's transaction was included in one of the blocks. Brilliant. You can see it there, that little red one. It's in one of the recent blocks. Not the very last block, but maybe a couple ago. So it's been finalized, and it's really, you can't change it now. It's in that blockchain. It's there for eternity. And because it's in the blockchain, Jill's account balance has changed. So we can see that credit and debit that we talked about before, Bob's balance has reduced to 0.9 Bitcoin, and Jill's balance has increased to 0.1.
Right. Jill just scored herself about 12 grand. She's off to get some Botox and get her nails done.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely. Okay.
So that's brilliant. That's happened. But what I want to talk about now is a misconception. Crypto is not really stored in a particular wallet.
Wow.
Okay, it always remains on the blockchain. Because people think, oh, I've got my crypto wallet and I know that I can see my Bitcoin inside it, for example. And they think, well, where is my Bitcoin? It's not in the wallet. It's not on your phone. It's not on your computer. It's always in the blockchain. So a way to think of this is that in reality, wallet addresses are more like bank account numbers. The address, the wallet address, and that's what you've got on your phone. You've got a wallet address. It's pointing to an address on the blockchain. Okay. And the blockchain is the thing that's keeping the balance. In fact, if you take, as I mentioned before, if you take all those transactions in each one of the blocks, you can see the history of where it's moving from this address to that address to this address to that address. And that's effectively what's happening. The wallet itself, in our example transaction, the balances of wallets are simply being credited or debited from A to B.
Okay, so just another little question for you, Si. Sorry to interrupt your amazing flow and your beautiful graphics. I'm really impressed. So this guy who recently lost his wallet address, and he literally bought access to the refuse tip.
Oh, the tip, yeah.
Now, that because he's lost essentially his bank account address, essentially he's lost his Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, that's a good story. That I'm not sure if everyone's heard about it, but this gentleman, he effectively had lost his hardware wallet, like a USB key. And I think his partner, his ex-girlfriend or whatever it was, had thrown it out accidentally. And now this is the question: what had he lost? He'd lost his USB key, and on that USB key. By the way, I just wanted to say that as we just said, wallets are just a view on the blockchain, right? They're just like an inspection of what the blockchain says. Really, it's a key. The wallet is a key. And the key unlocks the mailbox or the bank account.
Okay.
So what he'd lost was effectively his keys to unlock the mailbox, to unlock the bank account. And importantly, he can't sign transactions, so he can't move it anywhere because he hasn't got his key. And that's why he wanted to gain access to the refuse site in the UK so that he, in fact, I think at one point he wanted to buy the whole refuse site so he could go and search through. It's it'd be better if you keep it safe in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So his money still exists on the blockchain. He just doesn't have the key. He can't get to it.
Yeah, 100% right, Dave. That money is just locked up in an account and will never be able to move.
And there's a lot of that, I believe.
Absolutely, there's a lot of that. A lot of people over the last couple of decades didn't realize the value of Bitcoin, lost their keys in one way or another, changed computers, didn't realize that Bitcoin would become so valuable. And there's a lot of Bitcoin that has just become stuck in addresses and it will never move. And in a way, it's like the reverse of inflation. So where the Bank of England goes and creates a whole lot of new money by printing pounds, or the same thing with we talk about the Federal Reserve and the 30
quantitative easing, yeah.
Right. When they create new money, it devalues all the existing money in the supply. Now, the opposite's happening with Bitcoin because there's only ever going to be 21 million total. Now, if some people are losing huge chunks of it, that money is effectively being removed from the money supply altogether. So it's actually deflationary. It makes whoever's keeping their money safe, keeps that money more valuable. It makes that money more valuable.
Wow, well, that's it's brilliant because, as we know, inflation, what is it? It's just another tax. It's just another way of taxing you. It's an absolute nightmare. It's getting really bad.
Right.
I mean, every which way we look at this, it's a win, right?
Yeah, that's it, Dave. So I hope I've explained quite a lot of that in a bit of detail. It isn't too technical, but you can start to get a picture about how Bitcoin moves around the peer-to-peer network and why it's secure, why the strength in numbers, and why it's such an incredible innovation back in 2008.
Fantastic, mate. Well, no, that was brilliant. It was really clear. There's one question hanging over me that I still need to ask, and that is, when we were looking at all of that, there seemed to me to be a lot of steps that could possibly be open for corruption, for fraud. Is that a reality, or is the blockchain protecting itself against that?
Well, the reason there is that many steps is actually the opposite, to prevent fraud. Okay. Because there's so many people, they're all sharing the blockchain and they're all sharing the transactions around. Yeah. They're all doing effectively the same job. And coming to consensus, as I say, is the process of them all agreeing that things are correct and no one is manipulating the system. So nobody can double spend their money. One of the important things, if there really is a bad actor, they would have to effectively take over more than 50% of the network to do this malicious act.
Okay.
Do you see? That's an important point. Because the majority of nodes have to come to a consensus and agreement. So if that's the case, if only a few of them have done some malicious act or have tried to create money out of thin air or double spend or something, then it wouldn't gain traction, because it might only just be a number of the nodes. Because there's thousands of Bitcoin nodes and miners, you have to basically corrupt hundreds and thousands of them and get them to agree on an alternative version of reality, which these days can't happen because of the decentralized nature of Bitcoin.
Okay. All right. And then one more question, Si, be my last one. What is a node? Just quickly, is it a hardware? Is it a set of hardware?
It is. It's you can just imagine it as a big computer, and there are different types of nodes. The full nodes store complete blockchains, and a lot of them are that full node, complete set of the blockchain, especially the miners. So the big mining operations, say Bitcoin mining, right? We've heard this term. So they're the ones that process the transactions. But indeed, it's hardware, computers, right, in data centers.
Okay, fabulous. But that was really clear, a clear understanding what the blockchain is. I think I might watch it again, because I'm here. I think I'm going to watch it again. I suppose anyone can do that if it's not clear, but I'm sure a second time through, it's really going to lodge in there for a cabbage, like a blockchain cabbage like myself.
Well, all we're trying to do is just instill some sense of trust, right? Yeah. So for people who don't or haven't understood the blockchain, hopefully you don't have to understand every single detail. You can understand generally what's happening here in terms of the main word, decentralization, why there's no central authority, but at the same time, why it still works.
Okay. Right. So and this brings me on to what we're going to do here is we're going to sort of create a chronological series where we start right at the beginning and work our way through, so that anybody at any level can join on at some point, or you can recommend it to a friend and they can go right to the beginning, or if their understanding's a bit better, they can go to episode 6 where things get a little bit more sort of technically, a little bit more technically heavier technically.
Yeah.
So, I think that's probably what we're going to do here, right?
Yeah, but we're always going to keep it fun though as well, and light-hearted. I know that there can be some really technical ones, and I know that this particular episode is a little bit technical, but others are more about the innovation and the fun behind it, the community spirit, and what all the different cryptos. If you haven't seen episode 2 on why there's so many different
names you chose for the people who were sending Bitcoins there, I thought that was was it Bob and Jane?
Bob and Jane. No, Jill.
Bob and Jill. I really like. Remind me of those Jack and Jill books. Anyway, yeah, let's take it back.
This is a 101 for Bitcoin. So
Yeah, mate. Thank you so much, Si. As always, it's fabulous. Your graphics are getting better, and you're super clear,
hope so,
brilliant,
mate.
really good understanding. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right, mate. So I'll see you next time. Yeah, I think you're off on your travels soon, right?
Yeah. So we're going to perhaps have a few episodes from Japan and Hong Kong and
Oh, I love
maybe
Hong Kong.
Paris. So
Yeah,
going to find out what's going on
yeah.
in those various
Are
different
you going to go
places.
Are you going to go to Tokyo?
See, I mean, Osaka, have a look at a couple of things over in Osaka.
I love Japan. I mean, if you wanted an off-planet experience, Japan is about as close as you could get to it.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Mate, well, listen, I'll speak to you before, but have a brilliant time, and we'll keep going. We'll get a couple of broadcasts from over there from you, hopefully.
Thanks, mate.
Take care, yeah?
See you soon.
See ya. Si, could you just quickly go through the disclaimer?
Sure, Dave. So White Mirror is created to entertain and inform about Web3 and decentralization. None of this is financial advice. Crypto investments are considered high risk and can result in total loss of capital. The past is no guide to the future. There's no guarantees of return or profit here. You must do your own research. Crypto is largely unregulated in many countries. Tax laws apply, and you should seek tax advice if necessary. White Mirror does not endorse any cryptocurrency whatsoever.